Welcome to Sliders and Wings, a podcast about the TV show Sliders
and the TV show Wings
and all the other forgotten TV shows of the 90s.
I'm Valerie Temple.
And I'm Rachel Cox.
Welcome to 2022.
Our first podcast of 2022. Well, I don't know about you, but I think 2022 is going to be fabulous.
Oh, yeah. Let's just put the stake in it right now. Claim it for good, right? Just got to start out on a positive outlook, you know?
Starting with this fabulous show,
The
Commish.
Commissioner, I never heard of a roof jumping permit.
You ever heard of suicide prevention?
What?
You got a jumper on your hands.
Do you want us to hold him?
Abso-freaking-lutely!
What's your history with this show, Rachel?
I think I watched it, but maybe I just watched it. I mean, maybe I just have the deep memory of that opening sequence of the credit sequence. It's
Which is high art.
The pen. I mean, like, I've never forgotten the pen.
Yeah, it's a little short film about a lost pen.
Okay, I didn't understand if it was a particular pen or was it like he's always looking for a pen and he can't find one. And the wife puts a pen in the sandwich.
I think maybe it's the pen at the end is a new pen.
Oh, doesn't the pen say like Love Rachel or something?
Yeah, it says Love Rachel.
I mean,
my commish, Love Rachel.
The show started in 91 and I was probably 11. So like at a time when your name being in something was noteworthy, like there's a character named Rachel in this. So that makes it interesting to me to hear my name on the show. So that interested me. I remember the sandwich. And then when the son came on, I saw him and I was like, oh, I remember him. But I can't say whether I like was watching it every week or whatever, but maybe my parents watched it or something. I don't know. But I definitely watched the Commish because I remember I didn't understand what Commish was short for.
Commissioner.
But it's funny is that now I'm 41. I still don't understand what the difference is between a captain, a lieutenant, a commissioner.
Oh, no.
I mean, what are all these things?
I don't know. Different ranks, Rachel.
Yeah, but like, what is the significance of him being a commissioner?
I do know that a commissioner doesn't really do much police work, which is where this show doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Right.
Why hang a whole show around a job that is really a lot of paperwork?
There was like a side plot where they want to buy a big house and he's like, okay, I could buy the big house if I write a few articles for Commissioner Digest or something.
And
they're like, yeah, but then you're going to be spending
speeches.
all your time writing. Like, let's not do it. He can do it while he's at work, I think.
The price of that house that they were interested in was maybe not expensive for now, but like as much as something would be now. It was like $467,000. I was like, wow. They're in a small-ish town in New York.
But they definitely say that the both of them, him and his wife, are kids from Brooklyn.
Right.
Did you notice Krychek?
Yes. Did you notice Glenn Morgan and James Wong's names in the credits? No. Morgan and Wong from X-Files fame. They were supervising producers on this show.
Well, I noticed the guy who kills himself in the show was on Days of Our Lives. When I watched Days of Our Lives in the 90s and 2000s, he stuck out to me. But I did find the plot kind of interesting, which is just that this guy gets booked for DUI or something. And then while he's in the jail, he kills himself. And then his father's rich, so he immediately wants to blame the police department. And then the commissioner's like, let me investigate it. I guess part of the commissioner's job is keeping the peace between the police officers and the unions and the whoever that lady was that he was talking to.
Judgy
Judgy legal
relations.
lady is what I call her.
Judgy legal lady. Okay. Very official sounding.
Constituents. I'm guessing that most police shows are about the lower rank police, and this is more about someone who's kind of in the middle, and that could be interesting.
And he's offbeat. He does things a little differently, which you can tell just by the design of the logo for the Commish. It's got that tilted M. You know, he's a little to the side. He's a little different. I definitely think that this really falls in the monk psych zone of shows. It feels like it would be a USA Network type of show, like characters welcome, you know? The first episode starts out with a guy wants to jump to his death. He's like, where's the roof? And the Commish is like, well, do you have a permit? You need a permit to jump off of that roof. And then through this offbeat tactic, he ends up going to this hospital and receiving medical attention instead of killing himself. Oh, it's so quirky.
He's one of those bosses that just really cares about everyone and just takes the time to do things right and just never gets annoyed with anyone. The guy who's trying to do the right thing.
He's a really good guy.
Oh, wait, let me just read one sentence about the show. The Commish is an American comedy drama television series that aired on ABC from 91 to 96. The series focuses on the work and home life of a suburban police commissioner in Eastbridge, New York. And the important thing is that his wife is named Rachel.
Yeah. Very important.
The series stars Michael Chiklis as Anthony J. Tony Scali, a former NYPD detective who's now the police commissioner in the small fictional suburban New York town of Eastbridge, and tends to work through problems with humor and creativity more often than with violence or force. Yeah, and then he's got a young son, David. And then in the first season, living with the family was Rachel's freeloading brother, Arnie Metzger, played by David Paymer. I was most familiar from being on a show that we haven't done yet, which is Boston Common.
David Paymer's on Boston Common.
Let me 100% make sure. This is more of like a 2 stars, 1 slot kind of thing. Did we say Steve Paymer?
No, we said David Paymer.
Okay, is it possible they're brothers? Because these guys just like, yeah, older brother of David Paymer. Okay.
Weird.
Just 2 guys, they look almost exactly the same. Steve Paymer, the brother, kind of talks like this and is very monotone, and he was on Boston Common, and this was kind of like his whole thing. Let's talk about Michael Chiklis. In my mind, when I was a kid watching this show in early 90s, this man was like in his 50s.
I know where this is going.
Yes. And then the next time I became aware of Michael Chiklis was when he was in the Fantastic Four playing, who is he? The big
Ben Grimm, the thing.
Guy made of rocks or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember like seeing a behind the scenes or something of him. And I was like, what? It was him. And like he hadn't aged a day. I guess maybe it was only 10 or 15 years later. So I guess he was just much younger.
Do you know how old he was when the show started, when the Commish started?
No.
28.
The guy I'm looking at in that show is 13 years younger than me now.
Yes.
That is crazy.
He's 28. The character is in his late 30s.
Whoa. So one advantage to being prematurely bald.
Yeah, I was itching to get you to guess how old he was in this show.
I started to say 30 and I was like, no, that can't be.
I feel like him being 28 when the show started is the most 90s thing. Why did people look so old in the 90s?
Greg is looking at photos of him when he was a kid with his grandparents, and they look just ancient. Like their hair is all gray. They're wearing like dowdy clothes and like orthopedic shoes. And he's like, she's 46 in this picture.
I know, exactly. The Golden Girls were like 55.
Yeah. Every wig that my sister and I had in our little costume department when we would dress up was just some sort of shade of gray, curly wig. I mean, that was what every wig was. I don't know.
You can do a lot with those. I guess the producers of the Commish, there was a lot that they required of Michael Chiklis to like maintain looking older. He wasn't allowed to cut his hair. He lost some weight and they wanted him to like stuff.
Chiklis's character was at least 10 years older than Chiklis's age at the time. At one point, the network worried that Chiklis's weight loss would have an effect on the ratings and reportedly asked him to stuff his clothing.
Can you imagine?
He also was encouraged to not shave his head to look still older.
I love it. Only a man can be like, can you stay looking kind of old and gross?
The woman who plays the wife, Teresa Saldana, received a Golden Globe nomination. That's about it.
Oh, good for her. I watched 3 episodes of it. I watched like the first 3.
Such a brown noser.
I know, sorry. I'm not trying to show you up or anything. Mainly I watched the second episode just because it was Christmas and the second second episode is about a rapist who wears a Santa mask. And I was like, well, let me watch that on Christmas Day, like a complete weirdo. And then I watched just the third episode after that, which I'm glad I watched it because I felt like I had really nothing to say about this show. It's fine. I was only really aware of the title of this show. Putting this on for the first time to watch for this podcast, I was like, this is what this show's like? Oh, wow. I didn't know that it was a little bit goofy, like a little bit funny. I just knew the name, the Commish. And I was like, okay, that's a cop. I was expecting cops, so I got cops, but I wasn't expecting the weird tone that the show has. Mm-hmm. Michael Chiklis does a good job. He's definitely likable. He just kind of reminded me of what if Dennis Franz in NYPD Blue was a comedic character. It doesn't seem particularly 90s in any way. It almost seems like a show from the 80s. Mm-hmm. But then the third episode that I watched, I was glad I watched it because I felt like it really unlocked something about it for me, which was just how weird the show is in that it deals with these pretty serious police stories, but they're interweaving it with these inconsequential, not even dramas, they're like family hijinks. The third episode is about Rachel is up for Teacher of the Year at her school, and they go to this award ceremony, and she doesn't think she's going to win because this other teacher wins it every year. And then through the course of the episode, we learn that that teacher is a child molester. They find child porn in his car. He's weeping on the floor at one point when the commish is getting a confession out of him, and he's recalling his own molestation from when he was a child and his dad would bring over buddies and have a molestation party or something. There's these little girls who are remembering things about attacks, and it's just really disturbing. Oh. And then the family plot, the B plot, is Michael Chiklis has forgot that he promised to take his wife to the ballet for her birthday. And so he has to buy tickets, and he's trying everything to get these tickets. And it's just such a weird combination of things to shift back and forth between these two stories. It didn't work for me. And I wondered how it worked for anybody. This is the third episode of season 1, and I can't imagine someone being like, oh, this is really entertaining. I'm actually laughing through this. Oh, this lovable commish. He forgot his wife's birthday. Also, this child molester.
You want to know what it's like to have a really traumatizing job? Watch the commish.
That's what's weird about it, I think, is that he just doesn't seem to be that personally affected by these really horrible things that he has to deal with on a day-to-day basis. There are these little sweet moments where he thinks about his family and he's like, oh, I want to protect my family from this. That's the only thing that's bothering you about this. Pretty upsetting.
In terms of accent corner, people have New York accents on the show. Some people don't. Some people have like no accent. And then a lot have really strong New York accents. And that seems about right. For the most 90s, I pick Rachel's hair.
She's got shoulder pads going on too.
I feel like the all kinds of curly frizzy hair looking good is due for a comeback. I'm hearing whispers that things are changing for them, and I'm really looking forward to frizz everywhere.
It'll be good. Other end of the spectrum from long, straight, parted down the middle. Mm-hmm. You know, you got to go extreme in the other direction. Yeah, as I said, I didn't think it was very 90s. Michael Chiklis referenced Hill Street Blues in the first episode.
Oh, he referenced Donald Trump in the pilot.
He did. David Paymer is trying to give him financial advice or something, and he says, you won a Monopoly tournament when you were 12. That doesn't make you Donald Trump.
We can all agree he's a great businessman.
Oh, I actually have a really good one from that same scene. Rachel is coupon clipping.
People still do that, don't they?
Do they? Who gets the paper?
Well, like 10 years ago, I know there were those reality shows of extreme couponers.
Yeah. But you have to admit that coupon clipping was more a mainstream activity in the 90s.
I know my mother would there'd be like a note with a coupon paper clip to it. Next time we go, we're using this coupon.
I think my mom had a special billfold kind of thing. Yeah.
But you were correct. Clipping coupons as a normalized everyday activity. Yes. Very 90s. I thought of so many Mad magazines. I wasn't sure where to go with it.
Here we go.
I mean, everything rhymes with Commish. 2 of them were food related. And maybe that's because of the pen and the sandwich.
I just have to say before you say your Mad Magazine titles, that shot of him taking the meat and there being a pen underneath it made me laugh so hard.
You didn't know it was coming.
No.
I'm like waiting for the pen. I mean, like the show is the pen in the lunch meat. Like that is the show for me.
The pen in the lunch meat. I laughed so hard. I like paused it and then made Aaron watch the credits. You have to see this. It's wonderful.
So I have delish and side dish, and then non-food related, go fish.
I went very like old school mad with mine. It's not exactly a rhyme, but it's an almost rhyme. The kvetch.
Nice. So what you watching?
I've had the entire week off from work, so I've been watching a lot of stuff, but most notably, we watched a made-for-TV movie from 1990 starring Olivia Newton-John called A Mom for Christmas. Friend of the podcast, Dan Heyer, on Christmas, without any comment, just posted the YouTube link to this movie. And I was like, oh, we had this taped off of TV.
Is she a mannequin that comes to life or something?
Yes, she's a mannequin who comes to life. Yes, a little girl without a mother who goes to the mall all of the time, encounters a vaguely witchy Doris Roberts, and she gets a wish, and she wishes for a mom for Christmas. It doesn't really make sense why the mom is specifically a mannequin who comes to life, but there we are. Olivia Newton-John is delightfully goofy. She's not a human, so she's doing all of these human things for the first time.
Is she doing an American accent?
No.
The funniest thing to me about the movie Grease is that John Travolta's family was on vacation in Australia. People don't go on vacation in Australia in the 70s.
No, they moved to Australia. Do you know how expensive that would be?
They rewrote this whole thing, which is nonsensical, just clearly because she couldn't do an American accent.
Right. They don't even have a line to explain why this mannequin has an Australian accent. They could just say, oh, the shipment of these mannequins came from Australia. It'd be even more plausible than Danny Zuko going on vacation to Australia.
I told you that Greg and I had been watching Lost in Space. We both agree is horrible, and I abandoned it and he saw it through. And then a show that we watched the whole first season of, the second season came back, and that show is The Witcher. And we've been arguing about which show is worse. I argue that they're both bad, but they are bad in very different ways. Like The Witcher is just, the dialogue is really clunky. They say fuck all the time, like a medieval Game of Thrones thing. And they're always like saying fuck. People are clearly wearing dresses with sequins on them, which really bothers me. Witcher is like super confusing. They just threw you into this brand new world and there's so much exposition. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where the cities are. Like at least with Game of Thrones, they had that little map at the beginning. So you had like a rough idea of where these lands are. And it's just really confusing. But I argue that it is still way more enjoyable than Lost in Space because I have no idea what's going to happen. An episode starts, I'm like, I have no conception of what is happening in this show. With Lost in Space, I know there will be some sort of engineering problem or someone will be in danger for about 25 minutes and then they'll save them.
Yeah.
And the plot will not move forward whatsoever. If I'm going to watch something that's bad, I'll watch something that's at least bad and unpredictable.
Here's a show that Aaron and I abandoned, but you might be interested in if that seems to be your game. Bad and unpredictable. Yellow Jackets.
Is bad? Lord of Flies for girls?
There's a lot of goofiness with it. It kind of drains at your suspension of disbelief. And then to me, it was really struggling with advancing the plot so that you stayed interested. It's like half in the past, half in the present. Them in the 90s dealing with this plane crash and being stranded. And then some of the girls in the present dealing with being a survivor or whatever. But there seems to be a secret that they all are trying to keep buried, but it also seems like everyone kind of knows that they were cannibals. So they've all agreed to lay low, I guess. But then one of the girls is running for senator and her opponent runs this attack ad that basically makes fun of her for being a cannibal. How could this woman run for senator? How? Christina Ricci is great. Juliette Lewis is great. Melanie Linsky. It has a lot of ladies I like in it. It just didn't go anywhere fast enough for me. It was relying too much on all of this batshit stuff happening and like alluding to stuff. And I was just like, no, just fucking get to something, okay?
You find that it gets harder to enjoy things as you get older?
Yes, absolutely.
Because I used to have this book where I kept a list of like all the movies I wanted to see, and it would just get so long. And then at a certain point you realize like, I'm probably not going to watch these like 20 Criterion Collection movies. Like I'm not going to watch those Ingmar Bergman movies at this point. Like, why would I suddenly watch them now? I've come to adapt my thinking. Instead of being like, I have to see these things, I now think, and personally, I think it's maybe good that we have too much content now, because you reach a point where you go, I can't watch everything. Like it's impossible. You have to just let go of it and just think that these movies and shows are like delicious meals and you pick them for your mood or the circumstance, and just think like, I'm in the mood for a Western, or I'm in the mood for a silly British murder mystery. You're just picking them out of the ether and like, you're never going to see them all.
It is freeing to know that you cannot be a completist about all of this stuff. You will never see it all.
I never watch Prime, but I've put so much bizarre stuff on this list, curating it, collecting it. Prime is very much like an old video store. There's so much weird stuff on there.
It is actually one of my favorite streaming services for movies because it has weird stuff. It'll have really random deep cut stuff. I find that interesting. I'm not the kind of person who is okay with just watching all of my favorite movies from when I was a kid over and over and over again. That's not my deal.
I used to be that way. And then I just hit a point where I'm like, I don't think I can watch this anymore. I used to watch Scrooged every year. And this year I just didn't. And I'm not going to watch it now. That's weird. I mean, maybe that's part of, just getting older. It doesn't make you excited anymore. But, when I was younger, it would like get me excited for the holidays.
Yeah.
And I'd watch like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And now it's just like, if I have an hour and a half to myself, that's not what I'm going to do. Yeah. So back to The Witcher tonight. There's just 1 or 2 more episodes.
Yeah. I don't know what we're going to watch tonight. I think we might watch The Piano. We got it from the library and it needs to go back. This is also a strategy that I have to watch things is that I request them from the library and then the library will send me a notice saying, you got to bring it back. And that makes me watch it. I have definitely gotten through a lot of movies that I would have struggled to before.
That used to work with me, except that now we moved to this cushy suburb where I guess they just don't want to deal with the fees. And so they just auto renew until you bring it back.
They do the same thing in Cleveland. There are no late fees and they will just auto renew you until someone else requests it. And then they're like, now you have to actually bring it back. But you could still be late on bringing it back, even though there's not really an actual punishment for being late.
I do want to stop getting the emails about it.
Yes, exactly.
There's still an incentive.
I am compelled. Someone else wants to watch this movie. Someone else wants to see Set It Off, which I also have from the library.
Okay, well, this has been Sliders and Wings.
Yes.
Val and Rachel. And you can email us at slidersandwings@gmail.com.
That's right.
Check out our Instagram, Sliders and Wings Pod.
Sliders and Wings Pod.
All right, good night.
Good night, Rachel.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.